this is the first video I'm filming in my new place, so you're going to have to bear with me a little bit. The fridge just switched off and I ran and set everything up. I don't know how long we'll have, but we're just gonna see how it goes. It is time to tell you about the books that I read in December. December was a busy month for me, with obviously the holidays and a move coming up. I didn't have a lot of time to read, and I spent my time also rereading one of my favorite books, but we'll get into it. So we're going to talk about them. There aren't many books, but that's okay. Quality over quantity. Quality over quantity. Before we start, I wanted to say that you can now become a Patreon or YouTube member to get exclusive content from me. For just $3 a month, you get 3 extra ASMR videos. The videos are a little bit more personal too, so I'll be reflecting on my year and on December and telling you all about my move and everything. So yeah, if you want to connect more and get a bit of extra content, definitely check the link in the description box to join my Patreon or become a YouTube member. Okay, now we can begin. The first book is a non-fiction book, and I've mentioned this a few times before because it took me a while to get through it, and it is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle. It is a guide to spiritual enlightenment, and I read this book because Florence Given, who is the author of Women Don't Owe You Pretty and Girl Crush, I haven't read those books, but I really like her online presence on Instagram, and she does a lot of nice and insightful videos. She's a very empowering woman to consume content from, and she really loved this book, so I was like, well, I mean, I like what you stand for, so I'll probably like this book as well then. That was not entirely the case. My tabs fell out. These are the tabs. I always try to match them with the book. That doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. I'll read the back. Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now is the best-selling spiritual book of the last 20 years and continues to be embraced by millions of readers around the world. To make the journey into the now, we will need to leave the analytical mind and its false created self, the ego, behind. Although the journey is challenging, Eckhart Tolle offers simple language and a question and answer format to show us how to silence our thoughts and create a liberated life. Surrender to the present moment where problems do not exist. It is here we find our joy, are able to embrace our true selves and discover that we are already complete and perfect. If we are able to be fully present and take each step in the now, we will be opening ourselves to the transforming experience of the power of now. Keep in mind that our opinions can differ and we can still be friends, okay? And I respect your opinion, so please respect mine, but I did not enjoy this book. I love hearing enlightened people talking about their journey and sharing their wisdom. I like it when it's done in a very accessible way. So the concept of this book is where he answers questions that people he has met along his path have asked him. Really spoke to me. However, I found the tone of the book condescending, and I found that it was kind of, obviously you're getting his perspective on life, but I would have liked a little bit more nuance maybe. And a few times in the book he mentions how finding true presence and everything message that it's trying to convey. I didn't like the way that it was brought to us in this book. I think that there are other stories that I would recommend before reading this if you are into spirituality and are interested in hearing about enlightenment and getting tips on presence and that type of stuff. I would not necessarily recommend this book if you are sensitive to tone. Yeah. So that was my opinion. I think I wrote it more eloquently on my Goodreads. The link is in the link tree in my description box. But yeah, I didn't feel it, so that was sad. Then I read a romance book on my Kindle, and I don't know why it's not showing the fun actual cover of the book. Give me a second. Yeah, there we go. It is Out on a Limb. Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonam Young. Out on a limb. And this was such a lovely, 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 swoony and sweet romance story. I knew that it was going to be sweet. Haley Jean recommended it. She was raving about it. I figured I would love it. I did not expect to love it this much. Let me tell you what it's about. Okay, let me read it to you. The back of the book, not the entire book. Winifred Wynne McNulty has always been wildly independent. Not one to be coddled for her limb difference, Wynne has spent most of her life trying to prove that she can do it all on her own. And with some minor adjustments, she's done just fine. That is, until she has a one-night stand with the incredibly charming Beau, a perfect stranger. And that one-night stand changes everything. While Beau is surprisingly elated to step up to the plate, Wynne finds herself unsure of whether she can handle this new challenge on her own, or if she'll need a helping hand. Together, Wynne and Beau decide to get to know one another as friends and nothing more, but, as they both should know by now, life rarely goes according to plan. So this is the unexpected pregnancy trope, and it touches on insecurities, disabilities. It has a little bit of found family in their best friend circle. It feels like to me. It is so gentle and kind. I felt very cocooned while I was reading this, and that's exactly what I needed at the moment. This was just, I think the best way to describe it is as a very gentle and safe love story. And I really I don't know, I felt very connected to the way that Wynne thought about love and how hard it can be to let someone in, even if they are really sweet and kind and showing up for you and it is safe. It can still feel very weird if you've been hurt in the past. So I don't know, I thought that this was a very sweet story to read, and not one that is very often depicted in books. I loved their relationship. I loved how they went from a friendship to a love, like it said in the synopsis. So it in November technically, but it is Alone with You in the Ether. Alone with You in the Ether by Olivie Blake. Olivie Blake. And this was gorgeous. Gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. Just like you, just like you, just like you. Okay. In a Chicago art gallery, two people meet by chance. He is a doctoral student, consumed by calculations on time travel, which he uses as a distraction from destructive thoughts. She's a bipolar counterfeit artist undergoing court-ordered psychotherapy. By the end of the story, these things will still be true, but this is not a story about endings. For Reagan, people are predictably tedious, including, and perhaps especially herself. She copes with the dreariness of existence by living impulsively, sometimes imagining a new alternate timeline, springing from each rash decision. To Aldo, the world feels chaotic. He has erected a wall of routines, a backbeat of rules. Without them, the framework of his existence would collapse. For Reagan and Aldo, life has involved resigning themselves to society's expectations. But could 6 conversations with a stranger be the variable that disrupts the entire simulation? In the blurbs on the back, it says, "Far from your average love story, well worth the ride." Intimate, complicated, and utterly romantic, and I could not agree more with that. It describes it perfectly. The book has a very interesting writing style where it sometimes feels like it's describing a movie set where there's a narrator, and later that way of writing kind of fades into how you would read a novel, and I thought that was very interesting. It gets very existential at times, and it talks a lot about chance and essentially about the fact that every timeline exists and each choice you make changes the timeline. That's the best way I can describe it. But I love the way that it was written. I have another Olivie Blake book, which is The Atlas 6, and after reading this, I can't wait to read that one because it's such an interesting writing style. Let me see if I can find you a little quote. This is about a first fight. If you don't want any sort of spoiler or context on the book, just get to the next book. But just know that I recommend this book. This isn't about him at all. She already knows his brain is something foreign to her, something that contains little pockets of mysticism that she will never understand, no matter how intently she can dig her greedy tendrils. So when he says blank, she says blank, mostly just to challenge him. Later she will forget what the argument was even about, only that it happened, and most importantly, that when she said question marks, he said exclamation marks, and did not dismiss it. He didn't say, "Reagan, do you really want to do this now? Reagan, I'm tired, let's not. Reagan, go to bed, it's late, and you're arguing just to argue." He doesn't do any of that. Instead, he exclamation marks when she question marks, and when she exclamation marks, he question marks. And she should be annoyed. She knows. She should be irritated or tired, but she isn't. Instead, she thinks, "I love him." The way that it's written over here is like this, with the question marks and the exclamation marks. And I loved that so much, because I want someone to exclamation mark when I question mark and vice versa. You don't want to be dismissed. I don't know. It was just a very beautiful and sweet story, and it really takes you on a ride, and you really, at different points in the book, have no idea where it's gonna go, and it's amazing. It really such a different story that I wasn't appreciating. I came pretty far. I was not appreciating the short stories because I kept thinking about how I wish that they would be longer. Which in itself is not a bad sign, of course, but I just couldn't get into the stories as much as I would like to, so it is a soft DNF. I'll pick it up later, or I'll pick it up every once in a while to read a story or two, but I don't know when I'll be finishing this. So, but there is this kind of overlap, not in the story or the universes, but in the themes of the books. It's kind of, it's about longing and about screwing things up, oftentimes for love or lust. And I think that this does really display Claire, her talent for writing very well-rounded short stories, and the settings and the scenes and the times that these stories take place in are so different, and it's so mesmerizing, and it is so beyond amazing and interesting that this is all coming from the same author. It truly is. I think that if you are a writer or you want to be a writer, that this would be very fascinating to read. But yes, so little soft DNF. And then the final book that I want to talk about is my reread of one of my favorite books, if not my favorite book of the year, and it is Cersei by Madeline Miller. I've talked about this book before too, but I read this maybe in March, and I have not been able to stop thinking about the book all year. I think about this book weekly, at least. It is a Greek mythology retelling of Cersei. Cersei is a witch, and she's a daughter of Helios, and she gets banished to the island of Aeaea for her ability to perform witchcraft. On that island, she hones in on her craft, and she lives in exile. However, ships arrive on her island, and there are oftentimes men on the ships, and the way that men treat women isn't always nice, you know. If you're a woman, you know. And so she performs witchcraft on them, and at one point one guest arrives, and it really changes her perspective on a lot of things. And I love reading about a goddess and her struggle with being immortal, and the way that it was depicted in this book, and Cersei's strength and fire, but also still the love that she holds for everything around her. This is such a powerful story, and I want to eat this book. I always feel so bad when I do these reviews, and I'm not really good with my words because I just have a lot of feelings about the book. But yeah, it's just a very vivid story, and it's really powerful, and really about, on the back it says, is also